Let's go. Let's go. We are live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're a few minutes early. We plan on taking off at 8 o'clock p.m. Just want to make sure that everything is working correctly. If you're coming on, joining us live, please do me a quick favor. Be sure to let me know in the comments what city you're watching us from. We really appreciate all of you for coming on, joining us tonight. I want to see if I can find, I'm doing it a little different today, so I've got to a little more familiar with how everything works. But let's see here. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. We're just a few minutes away from getting started. Y'all know we're gonna take off tonight. So we got a lot of information that we're going to share. Please get you a pen, a notepad, or another device that you can use to take notes. We are going to be conducting a masterclass on how to underwrite creative real estate deals. So let's see here. I'm not sure if I can see. That's why I came on a couple minutes early, because I wanted to make sure I can see the comments. For some reason, I'm not able to see the comments the way I want to. So we'll have to work on that. Let's see, where are my comments? Good evening. Let us know in the comments where you're watching us from. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Really appreciate all of you and all of the support. Yeah, I'm not able to see my chat the way I normally do. There we go. I think I got it. I think I got the chat. Hey, if anybody's watching right now live, can you just put where you're watching us from in the chat, like what city? I just want to make sure everybody's able to interact. I can actually see the chat. Can you type something in the chat just to let me know that let's see here. Okay. I'm figuring it out. I'm streaming a new way today, so y'all gotta work with me. Yeah, I need y'all to help your boy out a little bit. So yeah, just type something in the chat or in the comments, whatever platform you're watching. You should be able to type what city you're watching from in the comments. Okay, we got a LinkedIn user. I just saw it. Let's see here. Ashburn, Virginia. Good evening, Ashburn. Appreciate you for watching us. Again, anybody else, if you're watching us on any other platform, Facebook, I know we're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and I think that's about it. Okay, Henry County, one of my favorite places in the world, Clarksville, Tennessee. Okay, appreciate it. All right, so we cooking with gas then. Well, good evening, everybody. It's 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ramon Preston, and tonight I wanted to host a masterclass on how to underwrite creative real estate deals. Before we get started, just want to give you a few, just a few footnotes to think about throughout the time that we're going to have. Number one, if at any point you have a question about something that I'm sharing with you, feel free to drop the question in the chat or in the comments on your platform. And I'm going to do my best to answer the questions that you do have. If you are here independent of anyone, meaning that no one invited you other than me or some marketing that we did, whether it was an email, a text message, or you saw some video online, if that's how you got here tonight, First of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you for trusting me and my company. I represent my company when I'm live or when I'm doing anything. I want to say thank you. Thank you for trusting us to share information with you that can impact everything that you do in your life. If you were invited by someone here, whether that someone is a community member or a community leader inside of our business and ministry community, be sure to take good notes. If you have any questions or things that you want more information about, I want you to discuss that with whoever invited you. And again, if someone in our community, a member or a leader invited you, make sure that you have a discussion with them to talk about what it is that you learned, what got your attention, and what you want more information on. If we as a company invited you, then there's information in the description. You'll see, of course, a free link to a worksheet that I'm giving away for free tonight, okay? So if you do not have our underwriting worksheet, it's made up of 4 pages. This is what we use when we come together and host our in-person creative real estate meetups. So if you do not have this underwriting worksheet, we are offering a free underwriting worksheet, and the link is in the comments, or it's in the description, whatever platform you're watching on. So you can always click that link, and that link will prompt you to our university platform, where you can either log in, or if you've never been to our university platform, you can sign up for free and you can access this entire creative real estate underwriting worksheet. So this is very instrumental, okay? Also, inside of the description, you'll see a link to join our free community on Ramon Preston University. We have other free resources. Of course, we have paid resources like our Millionaire Blueprint, which is our educational program, and our Millionaire Mentorship, which is our coaching and consulting program. But that conversation we can have another time. Tonight, we are here to talk about underwriting creative real estate deals. All right. Now, if you're not familiar with creative real estate as a whole, then of course there's a lot of information that you're going to have to learn. Okay. However, if you are interested in really deep diving into creative real estate investing, or just real estate investing in general, I highly recommend that you pay close attention to some of the things that we're sharing, because this is really a masterclass. Because underwriting in real estate investing it's the cream of the crop. I mean, it's the thing that once you learn to do, you're not only going to be an asset to yourself as a real estate investor, but you're going to be an asset to anybody who ever needs your assistance in real estate investing. As a matter of fact, my wife and I, we've been in real estate from the time we met all the way up until today. And that's been over almost 22 years. July be 22 years ago when I met my wife. We got married 21 years ago, September. And we were both going to school to get our real estate license at the time we met. I decided not to get mine. She got hers, but we still came together as a 2-person real estate team. And most of these 21 years that we've been married, most of these years, we have served primarily as consultants for investors and people who were in real estate, because we had the skill set that many of them, if I could honestly say, most of them didn't have, which was underwriting. So my wife and I, we knew how to look at a deal. We knew how to gather data on that deal and quote unquote underwrite that deal to determine if in fact it was good enough for the investors, the landlords, or even just the buying clients. We knew if it was good enough for them to purchase. So I'm telling you, if there's one skill set you want to have when it comes to real estate investing, especially creative real estate investing, that one skill set is underwriting. So again, you have a free underwriting worksheet in the description. You can click that link, you can download it and access it and follow along with me. If for some reason you can't do that while watching me, just take good notes. And then when we're finished, you can always go back, click the link and download this free underwriting worksheet. Now, this worksheet is 4 pages, okay? And I broke it up into 2 phases because this is how I like to underwrite deals, especially creative real estate deals. 2 phases. So phase 1 is the preliminary underwriting. So when I say preliminary underwriting, I'm talking about the underwriting that I need to do prior to even marketing or generating a lead to contact a potential seller. This is preliminary underwriting. I want to make sure that whoever I'm reaching out to and marketing to and attempting to make an offer to, I want to make sure that the property meets my investment criteria. And the only way I'm going to determine if it meets my investment criteria is if I properly underwrite it. So we have a preliminary underwriting process that we're going to talk about tonight. And then we have phase 2, which is a post-contact underwriting. So that would assume I conducted a preliminary underwriting process. I did my math. I gathered data points. I determined that this is a property that I would want to buy. I got the contact information. I reached out to the homeowner / potential seller. They decided that they wanted to do a deal with me. We made a verbal agreement, whether in person or over the phone or via email or text. And at that point, I gathered a little more data and I got some more numbers together. And then I conducted a post-contact underwriting process. Okay. So we're going to just break it up into 2 phases. Phase 1, the preliminary underwriting. Phase 2, post-contact underwriting. All right. So I think we've established that back. Now, let me give you a clear working definition for what underwriting is. Okay. So if you're taking notes, I want you to write this down, or I want you to at least screenshot it. Okay. Write it down or screenshot it. We define, or underwriting describes the process of identifying the financial risks on a deal, and we quantify those financial risks as costs. So I want you to write that down, okay? Or screenshot that, because this is a definition for what underwriting is. Because I want all of you to become master underwriters. I promise you this. Once, I'm not even going to say if, once you become a master at underwriting, especially underwriting creative deals, you're going to realize you don't need the money you think you need. You're going to realize you don't need the cash, the credit, or the credentials to do real estate deals. I promise you this, okay? So again, underwriting describes the process of identifying the financial risks on a deal. So anytime you start hearing people say, I'm underwriting a deal, preferably when a real estate investor says they're underwriting a deal, they're talking about the process of identifying the financial risks on that deal, okay? And once they identify the financial risks on that deal, it is then the responsibility of that underwriter to quantify those risks as costs. So now I need to quantify those risks to determine what are the costs associated to acquiring, which are the cost of acquisition, and what are the costs associated to disposing or exiting, which we call cost of disposition. So when I'm underwriting a deal, I'm going to identify with the financial risks. Okay. So you have Mr. and Mrs. homeowner. Here they are. They own a home. Whether they are a seller by choice or whether they are a seller by force. Are you understanding me? Whether they are a seller by choice or a seller by force, this homeowner has a home that they own. Okay. And so when I decide that this home meets my investment criteria, which we'll talk about that in a little bit, but once I, as a real estate investor, decide that, hey, this is the home that meets my investment criteria, and I know that I have an opportunity to communicate with this homeowner slash seller to offer them the purchase of their home, or to make a proposition that I would buy that home, okay? Or to at least express to them that I want to buy it. However I do it, whether it's email, whether it's knocking on the door, whether it's from an ad that they see about my business, whether it's somebody telling them that I'm looking at buying their home, or whether they're selling it on the open market and I come across to talk with them, whatever the case is, I still have to underwrite the deal even before I get a yes from the homeowner and the seller. And in order for me to properly underwrite the deal, now that I've determined that this is the type of house that meets my criteria, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to identify the financial risks associated to this deal. All right. So now I'm going to look at this property and I'm going to say, hey, if I was to buy this property, what are the financial risks associated to it? And once I start identifying with certain data points and with certain metrics and numbers and bringing them together, I am now underwriting the deal, and I'm going to quantify these risks as costs. And those costs are going to be made up of cost of acquisition. How much is it going to cost me to buy it or enter the deal? Okay. How much is it going to cost me to enter the deal? And what are my costs of disposition? Meaning that, what is it going to cost me to exit the deal? And once I'm able to determine what the total costs are and put those total costs together to see what I will actually make from the entry and the exit of that deal, I'm now ready to move forward. But guess what? Everything that I just said that makes up the process of purchasing a piece of real estate as an investor, it's all dependent upon what though? Everything I just said, what is it all dependent upon? I'm gonna see if somebody can put in the comments what you think all of this is dependent upon. One word. It's all dependent upon one word. I'm gonna see if anybody can guess it. What is it dependent upon? I'm gonna see if I got a good master class tonight. What is it all dependent upon? What do you think it's dependent upon? In order for me to enter this property and exit this property, bingo, Keisha Smith just put it in the comments. It all depends on underwriting. So you see, a lot of real estate investors, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling y'all, a lot of real estate investors, their superpower or their secret sauce is the ability to underwrite deals. A lot of investors, but I've worked with a lot of investors. My wife and I, we've been doing this for over 20 years. But for years, again, as I said, we were not the end buyer. We were not the end buyers. We were the consultants working with the end buyers, and our main job was to do this, to underwrite deals. And we realized that, yes, it's amazing to be the end buyer, but it's definitely impactful when you can be the underwriter for the end buyer, or you are the end buyer, but you understand underwriting. You're going to always make money. You're going to put yourself in a win-win situation. I hope y'all understanding what I'm saying and how powerful and impactful this is. Okay. So we've gotten that established, right? So everybody knows what underwriting is. Everybody understands it. Okay. So now let's get into a little bit of the meat and potatoes then. Let's get into a little bit of meat and potatoes. I think we're doing good with time. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to get into a little bit of meat and potatoes. So I want to break down some micro layers of what the underwriting process looks like. Remember, we have a preliminary underwriting process, and then we have a post-contact underwriting process. So let me do something real quick. I'm going to share my screen to show you the free worksheet that we have in the description. Y'all let me know if you do y'all see that? Can everybody see that worksheet? Somebody let me know in the comments if you can see the worksheet on y'all's screen. I just shared it. Y'all bear with me. I'm just using this technology for the first time. I'm not normally the one to do this, but I'm the only one here tonight. So y'all got to work with your boy. Can y'all see the worksheet on the screen? No, you can't see it. Okay, let's see here. I guess, wow, you can't see it on the screen. Let's see here. No, nobody can see it, huh? Wow. Okay, well, that's the first glitch for tonight. Let me see. Y'all give me a minute. Let me see. Wow. So y'all do not see that, huh? Nobody can see that on the screen, huh? If you cannot see that on the screen, I'm gonna have to freestyle it. Somebody give me a yes or a no again. Nobody sees that on the screen, huh? So I guess I cannot share my screen. Okay. Well, I'm not going to be able to share my screen. Okay. All right, cool. So here's what I'll do. I will freestyle with the worksheet. Okay. I'll freestyle with the worksheet and I'll drop as much as I can on the board for y'all. How about that? I'll do it that way. Okay. So we have, let me see here, and I'm gonna answer the question I just got just a minute ago. Let's see here if we can get another page up. All right, so I thought I was able to share the screen so that you can actually see the different points that I want to highlight, but I'll do it another time. We'll figure it out. One question we have in the chat: what exactly is creative deals? I've heard of it, but want to understand the simplicity of it. Well, a creative deal is, number one, a non-traditional way of buying and selling real estate. So you have conventional real estate investing or traditional real estate investing, meaning that you're going to put cash as a down payment because the bank is going to require that when you do a conventional or a traditional real estate deal. Okay. Number two, when you do a conventional or traditional real estate deal, you're going to have credit. Okay. The bank is going to require you to have credit, especially as a real estate investor. So if you're a real estate investor, then that means as a real estate investor, your cash is probably going to have to be at least 20 to 25% down. Okay. Now, of course, if you house hack, and you living in one side of a duplex, it's different. But we're talking about getting a loan from a bank as a real estate investor. You're talking about 20 to 25%. So that's the cash component, right? The credit is going to be required. It may be roughly a 660. You might need somewhere around a 660 credit score. And then with a conventional real estate deal, you're going to need credentials. So you may have to show your W-2s, you may have to show your 1099, you may have to show bank statements. There's going to be some paperwork or verification that the lender wants to see, even if it is a DSCR or no doc type loan. They need something to show that you legit. So the conventional way of investing in real estate requires and demands these three things, period. Well, when you think of creative real estate investing, depending on how creative you are, this is the fundamental difference, and I'm explaining the power of creative real estate. When you are, depending on how creative you are, you may not need your own cash, if any at all. And if you do need cash, it's most likely never going to be 20 to 25% of the deal that you're looking at if it's a creative deal. So creative real estate is non-traditional real estate investing that requires little to none of your own cash. It requires no credit. You don't need a credit score to buy a piece of real estate creatively. And you don't need credentials. So it's a no-brainer for most of us when we learn the different worlds. You get what I'm saying? Now there are different strategies that you can use to acquire properties that fall under the banner of creative real estate investing. And we might not have time to get into all of those strategies. I actually have an entire workshop that we talk about all these strategies. And of course, I always have courses that we teach these strategies. But just to answer that question, creative is just the non-traditional way that you buy and sell real estate with little to no cash, no credit, no credentials. Nobody needs any of that because you're not actually using a bank to purchase real estate as a creative real estate investor. So I hope I explained that. So now let's get back to our preliminary underwriting. So this is phase one. Now again, the preliminary underwriting process is the phase that you're going to conduct this underwriting prior to even having a deal. All right. So there's some things that you have to be clear on before you conduct your preliminary underwriting. Okay. One thing you have to be clear on is your buy box. So that's the first thing you have to be clear on. Because if you're going to underwrite a deal, meaning that if you're going to identify the financial risks of a property, right? And quantify those risks as costs. If you're going to conduct an underwriting process, it's got to be on a piece of property. It's got to be on some type of property. So the first thing that you have to be clear on is what's your buy box? What's your buy box? So your buy box describes your investment criteria that you use to acquire properties. In other words, what kind of house you want to buy. Okay, so I need to know what type of house I want to buy. Is it a residential property I'm looking at buying? Is it commercial? Is it apartments? Is it storage? Is it a little bit of everything? But if you had to choose one to do first, which would it be? Most real estate investors, whether they're creative or conventional, most of them start with residential properties because we are consumer-minded people and we can easily adapt to understanding the process of purchasing a home way quicker than we can understand the process of purchasing an apartment, a plaza, an office, a warehouse, a storage space, a trailer park. That's not easy to process and to understand as it is to process and understand buying a house, because it's easy to understand the process of renting a house. And you know people who either rent houses or own houses. So that is a little more understanding, and it becomes the low-hanging fruit for most real estate investors that's getting in the game. All right. So again, the first thing you want to be clear on is what is your buy box? What is your buy box? What is your investment criteria? What area do you want to invest in? What type of properties do you want to invest in? The size, the scope, all the details of those properties, because you have to create a perfect buy box. You need to have a buy box in mind. This is the perfect type of house that I want to invest in. this is the area, or this is the top few areas. So inside of my worksheet, right here at the top, I have a section showing you what my buy box is. So I have an example here. My buy box is typically 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1990s and up. So I want them to be at least 3 bedroom, 2 baths. This is a perfect buy box for me. I want them to be no more than maybe 30 years old. I'll push it depending on my exit strategy, but in a perfect world, 30 years old. The average price range is somewhere around 250. Either there's a balance of 250 on the property if I'm buying it creatively, or there's an after repair value of 250 or a little bit more, give or take 75,000 if I'm buying it. Okay, I prefer my properties that I look to buy to be individually owned, meaning that I don't want to deal with sellers who are corporations or LLCs, because they tend to not to want to work with you, especially if they're LLCs, because they might be investors themselves, whether they doing good or not. Okay, I have certain areas in Metro Atlanta primarily that I look at. So I have like my top 5 counties in Atlanta, and I have my bottom 5 counties. So that's my buy box. So if somebody came to me and asked me, Ramon, what is your buy box? What they're asking me is, what is your investment criteria? What type of real estate are you looking to buy? That's exactly what I'm going to tell them. Now, will I stretch myself and move out of that buy box? Yeah, when the opportunity presents itself, there are other factors that I will consider, but at least I have an idea of what my buy box is. So again, before you get into conducting your preliminary underwriting, you want to be clear on what your buy box is. Like, what type of real estate do you want to invest in? So you want to work on that buy box. Now let's assume you have your buy box. Let's assume you have your buy box. Well, if you are clear on your buy box, now you need to be clear on what is your primary acquisition strategy. Okay, I know I'm talking a lot of big stuff, so I hope y'all with me. So we have buy box. Let's check the box of the buy box. We got to get that clear, right? And then we have acquisition strategy. What do I mean by acquisition strategy? I'm telling y'all, if you listen to me and you pay attention and you digest it, you're going to become a beast at what we do, okay? So what is my acquisition strategy? I know what my buy box is, but what do I mean when I say acquisition strategy? How are you going to buy this type of real estate you put in your box? So that's where you have to determine, is it best for you to be a conventional real estate investor or a creative real estate investor? So I'm going to just use me as an example. I'm a creative real estate investor. So I'm going to put creative. I'm creative. That means I want to buy real estate as an investor with little to no cash, check. With no credit, check. And with no credentials, check. I don't want to have none of that. I don't want those problems when I buy real estate. So that means I want to be a creative real estate investor. So now I'm starting to clarify my acquisition strategy. Now, if I'm going to be creative, okay, what specific strategy can I use that doesn't require a lot of cash, no credit, and credentials? Most creative real estate investors are going to be using subject to most of the time. Subject to, they might use lease options, but that ain't really purchasing a property. So we're talking about buying a piece of property when you own the deed. So most likely it's going to be subject to. That means you're going to buy real estate subject to the existing loan because it's already a loan on it. Now, how are you going to find those types of properties? For me, the top of my list is going to be pre-foreclosures, because there are people who are in pre-foreclosure. They're already on the verge of losing their properties, and I can provide a solution to help them transition to the next chapter of their life And as a result of me helping them transition out of that situation and preventing their foreclosure, I can actually purchase the home and I could just take over where they left off. I could just continue paying their mortgage payments with that loan in place, and I can acquire the property. So that's going to be my strategy. Now I have my acquisition strategy. Does everybody understand me so far? Y'all give me some feedback. Let me know you understand everything I just gave you so far. I should have said this is a masterclass cram course. Y'all let me know y'all understanding me so far. So number one, I got to be clear on my buy box, right? Number two, I have to be clear on my acquisition strategy. So I know what type of real estate I want to buy. I know what type of real estate investor I want to be. And I know the specific acquisition strategy that I'm going to use. So I'm using subject to, I'm looking at pre-foreclosure properties. So now I've already niched my creative abilities down to little to no cash, no credit, no credentials, don't need the paperwork, right? I don't need banks. I don't need any conventional or traditional resources, right? And I also know the avatar or the profile of the type of homeowner that I'm going to be marketing to, because they are in pre-foreclosure. So just checking those two boxes, it changes the game. Now, I'm not saying in order for you to buy a property subject to using that creative strategy, that the seller or the homeowner has to be in foreclosure. It just means that for me, I can get to that deal quicker than I can other deals. But there are different ways to use these strategies, and I'm narrowing it down as much as I can because I'm limited in time, and I really don't want to try to go past 9 tonight. All right. And it's already 8:33. So a few people told me they understand and they with me. Y'all got it. Okay. So now, how do I start conducting my preliminary underwriting process? Well, I give you 6 data points that you need to use as a guide for your preliminary underwriting. So remember, we know what type of house we want. At least I do. I want an average 3.2 at a certain price range. I know the area. I know the year. And I know the condition. I know the condition, or should I say, I know the distress, or another word I could use, I know the motivation behind why I could potentially buy that house, because I know the condition, the distress, and the motivation behind the person or people who own the house, because I know I'm looking for pre-foreclosures and I'm looking to acquire them with a creative real estate strategy. Like I just gave you $1 million worth of game right here. I wish y'all understood how much game you just got with that right there. Like for real. If you only knew what I just gave you right here, that's $1 million right there. And I'm giving it to you free 99. So now that I have this clarity, I know the condition, the distress, and the motivation behind the type of house I want. I know the condition, the distress, and the motivation behind the type of person who owns this house. And I know that it's going to typically be a pre-foreclosure. And I know because it's going to be a pre-foreclosure, the best way for me to purchase this property is going to have to be subject to. That's just the way it is. Now I can conduct my preliminary underwriting. How can I conduct my preliminary underwriting? Because I know what I know. You got to know this stuff first. All this other stuff people telling you, if you don't understand that and you're not clear on that, you're probably not going to generate no leads and start marketing and start making contact with people. So we have 6 data points. I'm going to see if I could give y'all all 6 tonight. And we're definitely going to have to come back for another masterclass for other parts of this. But let me just see if I could give you at least the first, the 6 data points that make up the preliminary underwriting process. So there are 6 data points. So again, we're going to assume we know what type of real estate we want to buy, and we know what the condition or the distress and motivation is for that type of real estate. Okay. So now we want to gather data points. There are certain data points we want to gather. This is how you start underwriting. We're going to gather data points. So what's the first data point? Well, I need an address. I need a property address that meets my buy box. And again, I don't have the ability to share the screen, but let's say, for example, if I'm looking for a pre-foreclosure, all right, and I know what area it's in and I know what type of property, okay, I could just go to where pre-foreclosures are listed. I could go to certain websites, which all of you that are students or mentees, you got all the information inside of your modules. If you are not a student or a mentee and you need more resources, we'll feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to share it with you. But let's say, for example, I know what my buy box is. Now I'm just going to go to these websites that have pre-foreclosures listed. And I'm going to look through the websites to see which of these properties meet my criteria, meet my buy box. And I'm going to gather that data. All right. So that's the first data point. Now, once I get the address, you're going to need real estate investor friendly platforms. So between 1 and 2, data point 1 and 2, you need real estate investor platforms. I'll just give you a free one if you just want to go to one. PropWire is free, propwire.com. So now I'm going to take this address that I just got off of Zillow or Redfin, that's a pre-foreclosure because it meets my criteria, and I'm going to set up an account with PropWire, and I'm going to put that address in there so I can gather more data on this property, because remember, I need to identify with the risks associated to this. Now, some of you have been around me long enough to know I'm slowing this process down, but you should be able to do this within 45 seconds when you get good, probably 30 seconds or 20 once you get good. I'm just slowing it down so that you can see how this process works. So the second data point is ownership information, length of ownership. So now I put this address in this platform, and it's going to pull up data, and it's going to tell me who's the owner. So if it's a business, I'm going to scrap it, because I told you my buy box is not for businesses. But if it's a person or 2 people, okay, I got my ownership information and length of ownership. The reason why I want to know length of ownership, because sometimes the length of ownership starts telling a story. So you want to start getting a story behind this property. And again, I'm slowing this down, but I want you to understand, when you become a master at this, you'll do this on a property in like 20 seconds, because you're going to be underwriting a lot of deals, and you're going to be doing a lot of preliminary underwriting, and you'll do 100 properties over the course of a couple hours if you know how to do this like a master, if that makes sense. So now I have my ownership information and length of ownership, and now I'm starting to build a story. My third data point, I want to find out my loan balance, because this platform is going to tell you what the loan balance is on that property. Remember, if I'm purchasing this property subject to an existing loan, I want to know what that loan balance is. I want to know what is the amount of the loan that I'm going to take over when I purchase that property. Okay. And I want to also identify with the ARV or the resale value. I want to know the after repair value or the resale value. Okay. J.K. Forbes says, does the loan balance have to be a certain percentage of the market value for you to take over the mortgage? Nope, not necessarily, because once you get through all of the different aspects of underwriting, you will be able to determine what the best exit strategy is. And there are some exit strategies that don't even require equity anyway. So it really doesn't matter with some strategies. So I want to find out the loan balance. I also want to find out the ARV, because this is going to help me determine what the equity spread is. Okay, this is going to help determine what the equity spread is. So for example, if the loan balance on this property, let's say, is 100K, just giving you an example, and then I search for the ARV, like what is the after repair value? And I go to Zillow or Redfin or Trulia, and I find out that, oh, the after repair value on this property is actually $240,000, which I'm giving y'all a real case study from a property. My students and mentees know that. Well, the initial equity spread just in my preliminary underwriting is showing me that there's a $140,000 equity spread. So just with those 3 data points alone, I'm going to get the number and the address and the email address, and I'm going to reach out to this person just because of that. I know if everything goes wrong, it's enough equity if everything is accurate for me to actually do a deal. Do y'all see how I'm gathering that data? Let's see here. What happens if there is 3 different ARVs? Do you average the 3 or go with the lowest? That's a really good question. That's a really, really good question. That question sounds like you be in my classes. Yes, you're going to go with the lowest. So when you're looking at the loan balance, I always tell my mentees a rule of thumb is to go up a little bit. So for example, if it showed 100K, the loan balance on PropWire, I might go up to 105. But when you're looking at the ARV, the rule of thumb is to go down. So if it showed 252, I might go down to 240 just to have that spread of 15, 16,000, because you don't know if it's liens on this property. You don't know what's going on until you get past this phase and actually contact somebody and have a deal. So that was a very, very good question. So data point number 3, I'm going to get the loan balance. I'm going to figure out the ARV just so that I can know what is the initial equity spread, because that's telling me a story. Data point number 4, I want to figure out what's the PITI. What is the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance? Like, what is the dollar amount that these platforms, and again, I don't just use that platform, but I want to find out what is the monthly mortgage on that property? What is the monthly payment? So I want to get the PITI, but then I also want to get the GRV, or the gross rent value. I want to find out what is the rent value, which, by the way, if you're not a real estate agent, you're not going to get the comps that a real estate agent can get. But if you use certain platforms like Zillow and know how to do comparables the right way, if you know how to properly comp a property, you will find out what the ARV is. You'll be close, and you'll know what the rent value is. So I want to look at the mortgage payment on this property. I want to put it against the rent value, and that's going to help me determine my cash spread. What is my cash spread? So again, just with that data point alone, I could see, wow, if I bought this property and rented it, this will be my cash spread. If I bought this property and flipped it and sold it, this would be my equity spread. So I can already see 2 exit strategies here just with those 4 data points. And so the 5th data point, I'm going to be looking at the interest rate. I want to look at the interest rate. I want to look at the loan type. I want to look at the loan term. And without getting into the weeds, I want to know the interest rate, because if the interest rate is too high, it may be counterproductive to buy it creatively, because there could be interest rates as high as 9 or 10. So I want to know what the interest rate is. I want to know what the loan type, because there are certain loan types that you probably won't purchase subject to or creatively. There are just some loans you don't want to deal with. You understand? I want to know the loan term, because what if I have an opportunity to purchase a property and they're already 18 years into their 30-year mortgage? That lets me know they're on the other side, and most of that payment is going towards principal, not interest. So these data points are helping you to tell a story. Data point number 6, I want to identify if there's an HOA. I want to see if I can find any information about liens, bankruptcies, and I'll just leave it there. Now, the reason why I'm looking for this, because, and I've had this happen, so I know how it works. When I see liens and bankruptcies that have been dismissed or discharged, what it's telling me a lot is this individual has more motivation, because they have more distress, because they may not have options that someone else who never had bankruptcy or who don't have $30,000 worth of lien have. So it's telling me a story, and it's letting me know the level of motivation this person has. So again, if all I do is get this information, which I told you, when you become a master at underwriting creative deals like subject to, you can get this data in 30 seconds. I could, if I could share my screen right now, I would go on one of those sites. I'll pull an address, drop it on PropWire, PropStream, Batch Leads. I'll just look at these data points in like 15 seconds, and boom, I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna skip trace it, and my team is gonna start calling. Because once you do it enough, you don't need to take 20 minutes on one property. You could take 20 seconds, because remember, this is just a preliminary underwriting process. Now that I underwrite this deal and another 100, let's say, I can skip trace all of them. Skip tracing is when you're going to filter them inside of a platform like this, and you'll pay about 10 cents per property, or maybe 12 or 13 cents a property. And you're going to gather the email addresses and phone numbers associated to each address that you put in that system. So if you put 100 in there, you skip trace 100 properties, ownership name, you get the addresses, you get the phone numbers, you get the email addresses, and now you can start marketing to these individuals, calling them, maybe door knocking, sending them mailers and flyers or letters, until somebody calls you back or responds and say, hey, I'm motivated. I do have some conditions or distresses or motivations that I want to sell my property. And that's when you begin the deal making to start phase 2 of your underwriting. So it's 8:50. I have to stop here, ladies and gentlemen. But again, if you go into the description and you download all 4 pages of my Creative Real Estate Investing, CREI underwriting worksheet, you will see how it all plays out. And we still have 2 more pages for the post-contact underwriting. Because once you do this and you skip trace and you start marketing and you get somebody to respond and they're ready to do a deal, there's another process that begins for underwriting after you gather certain information. So on the second page of our underwriting worksheet, I have here at the bottom, Now it's time to make calls and contacts using your script. So you should have a script that you use for the type of sellers that you are marketing to. You should make calls and contacts. And then once you do that, you should have some step-by-step process for what you do after someone says, yes, they want to do a deal. Now, if it is a subject to deal, if that's the type of deal that you're looking for, I have a 10-step process to a subject to deal. So I have 10 steps from entry to exit that you should conduct in order to make sure that you're doing that type of deal correctly. And again, I am definitely going to have to stop. We're going to come back. My goal is to do this at least once a week, which may be Tuesday nights. That's really the only night it looks like I have some free time. But my team and I, we're committed. We're committed to helping as many of you as we can learn creative real estate investing and become masters at this. But we know it all hangs on the hinges of you mastering underwriting, whether it's conventional real estate, but definitely creative real estate. So again, you can look in the description. If you need to download the worksheet, you can have it. We can come back next week or at our next one. I'll make sure we give you the information. If you're not on our email list, when you sign up or sign into the university in the link, you're gonna automatically be added to our email list. So we'll let you know when we're gonna host our next masterclass. And also, everyone, on Saturday, May the 11th, less than 2 weeks, we'll be hosting another in-person creative real estate meetup where we'll be doing some of these same exercises. We'll be pulling properties from lists, dropping them inside of our platforms, and we're going to skip trace and we're going to role play and we're going to make calls. So the good thing is everybody that's in my community, if you're a mentee, we have scripts that are already drafted up that you can use. Like we give you all the game over here. So if you have any questions and you're not a member of our paid or free community, click one of the links in the description and reach out to us. I have put 2 numbers inside of there as well. So you can text or call one of those numbers and one of my team members will talk with you, answer any questions you have. So let me get a little bit of feedback before we go. What did you think about tonight's masterclass? Is it something you think we should do every week, once a week, twice a week? Give me some feedback. What was your biggest takeaway? Let's see here. JK said, okay, sometimes we take over mortgages with no equity. We will hold the property for years to keep in our rental portfolio. Absolutely. You're a beast, man. I've been in the game for years and I never seen it broke it down and articulated like this. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. All right. Somebody give me some feedback. Let me know what you thought about tonight's masterclass. Is there at least one big takeaway you got? Did y'all like that breakdown with the little scribble scrabble? And remember, I'm just giving y'all like a live freestyle because I was intending to be able to share my screen so I can show you the actual data every week. Step 3 is the jewel. You say step 3 is the jewel. Wow. Loan balance, ARV, and equity spread. Like that's how you do it. And I promise you, when you master underwriting, and we hadn't even gotten to breaking down the cost, that's what we're going to do next week, probably. We'll get to phase 2, and we're going to break down the cost of acquisition. What are all the costs associated to acquiring a property? We'll break down the cost of disposition, and you're able to put those total costs against your exit strategy to see what is your return. What are you expecting? And we're going to show you some creative ways to determine what the best strategy is. We'll show you some calculations on that. I got game for days over here, y'all. Hey, I appreciate everyone for joining me tonight. And again, if you have any questions or if you know someone who's interested in becoming a master underwriter, a master at creative real estate investing, and they need the education, they need the coaching and the mentorship, we have all that available. And all you have to do is click one of the links in the description. And I think we're probably going to continue to do this on Tuesdays, definitely. I can't promise more than one night a week to do these CREI master classes, but I think we can pull it off at least once a week on Tuesday nights around 8 p.m. Eastern. And as long as we continue to get feedback, you need to invite people to join you. One thing I do, and people in my community know, I give away a lot of information because I know we have to add value to people's lives and show people not just the light at the end of the tunnel, but show them we are the light while they're in the tunnel to help them get to where they're going. So with that being said, thank you all for joining our masterclass tonight on how to underwrite creative real estate deals. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Don't forget to leave comments, like, share, and be sure to turn on all your notifications no matter what platform you're on. We definitely need you to subscribe to our YouTube page. We're pushing to get to 15,000 subscribers. And so we definitely need your subscription on YouTube and definitely your follows on other classes. JK, my man, he says it's definitely a masterclass. All right. Love you all. Appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here for another edition of this masterclass. Peace.